This episode of The Young Turks is brought to you by Squarespace. I've been saying for a long time that I believe the country is actually very progressive. Now, I don't say that because I view myself as a progressive, so I wish the rest of the country was like me and had the same priorities, etc., etc. No, I say that because I've read the polls. Now, the poll that everybody will throw out there instantly when you start talking about this is the poll that they took where they said, what do you call yourself? Conservative, moderate, liberal. And liberal came in last out of those three options because liberal's been made a dirty word. For 20, 30 years, people will be like, oh, liberal, no good, liberal, right? And then, of course, by the end, if you've called something poo enough, people think it's poo. So they go, oh, I'm not a liberal, no. And you will see every hack on television use that same exact poll whenever this issue comes up, okay? Now, why do I think they're hacks? Why do I think that doesn't make any sense? Because if you actually ask the American people on issue by issue, they are massively progressive. They might not call themselves liberal, they might call themselves progressives or moderate or independent, whatever you want to call them, but look at the issues. So, a poll came out today that absolutely confirms that. 60 Minutes Vanity Fair poll asked, how would you like to balance the budget? Coming in at an overwhelming number one, raise taxes on the rich. 61%. Did they stutter? That is the American people saying, look, if you want to balance the budget, that's priority number one. Priority number two, as you can see on the screen there, is cutting defense spending. That came in at 20%. How much more progressive can they be? Well, they said, well, how about Medicare and Social Security? Should we cut those? Only 4% thought we should cut Medicare, and only 3% thought we should cut Social Security to balance the budget. And guess what they're looking to do right now in Washington? Cut Social Security and Medicare to balance the budget. Washington doesn't give a damn, man. You can come up with 28 polls like that. You remember the polls on the public option? 70%, 60%, 80% in favor. Who cares? No. Hey, who's at fault for this great economic crash? Wall Street. In poll after poll. Hey, what's the number one problem in the country? The fact that our politicians are bought, campaign contributions. Citizens United by the Supreme Court was reviled, not just by liberals or progressives or moderates or independents. Republicans hated that. Republican voters hated it. What was the number one issue when it came to Republicans doing polling on their own people? Offshoring of jobs, totally ignored. Every one of these where the polls come in and agree with the progressive position, they are totally ignored. Instead, in Washington, you will hear, this will never get mentioned again, this poll, unless I somehow miraculously keep talking about it enough that it starts to get into other people's consciousness. No one else is talking about this, right? And they will forget about it tomorrow, and tomorrow when you see someone on television, they'll say, oh, no, the only way to cut is cutting Social Security and Medicare. No, that's the only way to go. That's what the Republicans will say, and then the Democrats will eventually back them up and say, well, what could we do? That was our only option. As you can see, the American people think you have many other options. Options they would much rather have you do. Do we live in a democracy, damn it, or don't we? When you see something like that and you see how Washington reacts to it, you begin to think that, as a lot of us already suspect, that we don't run the country. The corporations run the country. The rich and the powerful run the country. Whoever buys the politicians, they run the country. But you see that poll? That's what real Americans think. New sponsor at The Young Turks, Squarespace. They help you build websites. They've got 24/7 support, and they've built some of the largest websites in the world.
They have an iPhone app, so you can edit your website on the go.
TYT promo code. 10% off for the life of your order. Squarespace.